to the Workforce Connections podcast, where we discuss workforce development in Southern Nevada. Here's your host.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the WC podcast. Today, we have a very, very special guest. We've known each other for over 2 decades. He's done tons of things, and we're going to try to unpack that for you today. So please help me welcome Major General Ondra Berry, Adjutant General for the Nevada National Guard, and my fellow Vegas Chamber Trustee. Ondra, so great to see you.
It's good to be here. It's Adjutant.
Adjutant.
Nobody says it right, so you're good there.
What does that word mean?
So basically, every state, state, territory, District Columbia has an adjutant. Well, actually, one has the commanding general. And they come under the purview of either the legislature or their governor, and you are over the National Guard, Army, and Air for your respective states. So they call the adjutant, who is the person in charge of the military force. And it's also used in with other industries, but for the purposes of the Nevada Military Department or the Nevada National Guard, I'm the adjutant, which is the senior ranking top official who was responsible for the manning, training, equipping of almost 5,000 of outstanding Nevada Guardsmen, airmen, soldiers, and civilians.
The passion's already coming out. I'm used to it because I've known you so long, but we're already learning as well, which is something, as we were talking off camera, I learned a lot from you years ago that shaped my professional career, and we'll get to that. But thank you for clarifying that for us. Again, this is a big job, and I got to see you in that role a couple of times over the last couple of years, and so grateful that you took the time of a busy schedule to come and share some of the things with us today. So,
well, and I go back. Our relationship was almost 20 years ago, and the things. And first of all, I say thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do to our community. Thank you for being a dispenser of hope to so many out there. Because when you have the ability to position yourself to have a better quality of life because of what you do with Workforce Connections, that's outstanding. And when you're pouring into people and letting them know what's possible and making the right connections and having the right partnerships, you are making a difference, not just in this city, not just in this state, but in this nation. So thank you.
Thank you, Ondra. And we have a great team here. As we were filling you in, another ex-colleague of ours, Irene Bustamante Adams from MGM, joined us here. And, we work with Poonam and still Rob Elliott and all the folks that group that you met way back then. Let's get started for our listeners and viewers that don't know you. And I don't know, there are very few Nevadans that don't know the great Ondra Berry, but tell them where you were born, where you grew up, where you went to school, and perhaps even college and your first job after college. Take us through that journey.
Okay. I'm from the Midwest originally. I grew up between 2 cities, Evansville, Indiana, and East St. Louis, Illinois. And we hear the story a lot, parents who didn't stay together, married young, didn't stay together. So most of my formative years was with my grandmother. So sometimes, many times when people hear me talk, I talk about my grandmother. And I also tell people that I grew up during a time of busing, which is where to better integrate schools, you basically left your neighborhood and they got bused for about 45 minutes to the other side of town. To a school called Harrison High School, William Henry Harrison High School, named after a president. And that was a game changer for me, not from the standpoint that just I was out of my element, because it's the first time I learned the importance of being out of your comfort zone is where you start to learn and grow. But I got exposed to people who knew that they were going to opportunities of higher education, and college was never on my mind. And I also got exposed to an individual who had a deep care and concern about my future. And after graduating, I had a full ride scholarship, athletic scholarship, and first generation college student, was not ready for it. I'll be the first. And I tell people that was on academic probation. We were on quarters back then. It wasn't even semesters. And actually wanted to quit school. And one of the stories I tell is sat on my grandmother and said, "This is too hard. I can't make it, over my head." And she ironed clothes for a living and made basically $25 a week. And I asked her this question. I said, "Why do you iron clothes for a living?" And she told me, "So you don't have to." And that was the impetus for me to say, I can do this. And she would literally send me, small amounts of money, and I would save it just to anchor in that somebody was sacrificing for me to be at that school. I ended up graduating, moved to, I was going to be a school teacher and moved to Reno, Nevada. But my first job was actually as a police officer.
Wow.
And let me tell you, that changed my whole perspective about life, because not so much just the job in itself, but about what it can do for communities and those that you come across. And sometimes we look at law enforcement from enforcement, but I looked at it from support, community, interaction, relationships, and it allowed me to do a lot of things. I started the D.A.R.E program there, the Drug Awareness Resistance program, started the GREAT program there, Gang Resistance Education Training. Can't believe I can still remember those.
Yeah.
Started the Special Operations Team, Special Operations Response Team. I did a lot of work in the community, worked numerous assignments, started to promote, and I found out the higher you go in an organization, the more impact that you can make with ideas, with thoughts, with how you drive strategy. But while I was working in the police department, I also joined the military, the National Guard. So I had these dual careers going the whole time, and worked at the Reno Police Department and reached the rank of Assistant Chief of Police. People actually thought I was going to stay to become the chief, and I left.
How many years did that take?
I was there for 25 years.
Wow. So sergeant, lieutenant, and all the way.
Oh, yeah. I was a police officer for 7 years, made sergeant, had a team, became the public affairs officer on the police department, worked there, and then made lieutenant, had a shift, ran detectives, ran special operations, then became a deputy chief, ran administration, ran patrol, did numerous assignments there, then became the assistant chief, basically ran the whole department.
Yeah.
And so, but I was like, I'm good. And I always remind people, what you do at work, that's your livelihood, but it's not your life. Mm-hmm. And work should never define you. It should be a big component, but you're defined by your capabilities and possibilities and your DNA and where you come from and your purpose. That's who you are. So that's why I never get locked into a role. I want to do great work in the role, but I don't ever want to say that's who I am. So that led me to start a business.
Don't go there, because that's our next chapter.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I stopped at the police department.
That's when I met you.
Okay.
I'm excited about talking about that. But before I forget, I made a couple of mental notes. In the police department, I remember watching Bad Boys,
Yeah.
Can I find you in some of those episodes?
You could not find me in none of those episodes.
Okay. I love the music. Bad Boys.
What you gonna do?
Yeah. Okay, so you weren't on there. And then another mental note I made was, what was the athletic scholarship for? What sport were you?
Football. I was football. At that time, I was like, I'm going to the NFL,
Wow.
and I also ran track. And and it used to be much bigger. All you did was work out and go to school.
Yeah.
And but it was. I always tell people, here's what you learn from sports. You learn teamwork, you learn failure, you learn success, you learn sacrifice, you learn discipline, you learn consistency, you learn commitment. It gave me so much that is still transferable. Not liking to lose, confidence, self-esteem, elevating, pushing, driving, being hungry, being passionate about something. It taught me so much about life that I still use some of those attributes today. Don't quit. I could just go on and on and on and on. And you still see, even when I watch, I'm a very passionate fan for the Las Vegas Raiders. Mm-hmm. Even when I watch the games today, you see some of how those athletes, who are the small percentage that have reached a pinnacle, they must be the best of the best, but the fundamentals do not change.
Yep. Michael Crone from the Raiders is coming next month to be
really?
right there, in that seat. And when you were playing, what position?
I played tailback. I'm proud to say I ran a 4.4 40.
Wow.
I had I love to run sweeps. I still have records in track, and I'm one of those people that my lateral movement was just as fast as my as moving forward. So but took a beating in that role. And as my wife says, I think something's still wrong with you. But
what back, if you would mention, who were your idols? Dion?
Oh, no. I was Tony Dorsett. I still look at, I think Emmitt Smith is probably the greatest. Gail Sears.
Well, the guy who played the Lions, Barry Sanders.
Yeah, Sanders. Those were, because they were more my size, and they weren't these big, Marcus, he played for the Raiders.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
But Marcus Allen, he was tall.
Yeah.
But see, I was about 5'10", and weighed 190. So that's why I look at those individuals, because they more fit my style and just did great work as in a game of giants, so to speak.
Where can I find some VHS footage of the young Ondra Berry?
VHS, maybe reel to reel. I mean, I actually have some.
Nice.
Yep. My coach gave them to me about 12, 13 years ago.
Wow.
And sent them to me. Says, you would like to have these, and I actually was able to get them converted over so I could watch
them. That's good.
And I was like. And I was showing to my son. I was like, "Let me tell you, back in the day."
Nice. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Wow, very cool. Well, Ondra, you've quickly brought us through that journey, and we're to the point again where I got to meet you. I was fortunate enough to meet you and Michael. So I definitely want to hear about Guardian Quest, because I remember being at the I was at Treasure Island at that time, and Scott Sabella was the president, and he said he came to several managers, and he handpicked some people and said, there's this program the company's embarked on. Poonam gave me a call, and I need to pick X amount of folks who I think would be a good fit. And he started to use these words that again back then weren't common: diversity, inclusion, equity. This word champion, we want to make you a champion. Mm-hmm. Of course I said, well, I'm tough, I can be a champion. Little did I know what I was into, but I didn't know. But then, a few weeks later, I got to meet you and Michael. And so I want us to tell us about how it was formed, because I later found out it came from the highest, place in our company. Terry Lanny, really, this was his project. Poonam helped him drive it. But how did the company approach you? Rene West, Heather Hordward, all these people. Tell us about how this big company, a Force 100 company, approached you guys, and how did they lay out this mission that took years to execute?
Well, both myself and Michael were police officers. Michael was a police officer in Aurora. I was a police officer in Reno. And Michael was looking at an organization that had a strong interaction and relationships with his community. So he actually came and visited me in Reno, and we just clicked. And I remember him asking the question, we're so similar, you want to start a company? I didn't know what that meant. And so we wanted to start basically a leadership training. So we started this leadership training, and it started to become popular. Remember, I had a full-time job, and I'm trying to run this company, and I never expected, matter of fact, you could have booked us almost for free, because we didn't even know what to charge.
Wow.
We just enjoyed training. And we went to a class called Rapport Leadership International, and it was a leadership training over a 3-day period. And one of the facilitators was Rene West, who at that time was, I believe, the VP
at Prim.
At Prim, that's right, at Prim, over HR.
Yeah.
And she said, "You really, our company is looking at that time was like 37,000 employees, and they're looking to do something around diversity and training, and there had been some challenges in the community." And I said, "Sure." And they had a basically interview process, and numerous companies applied, and we actually got rejected the first time. They said, "No," and it was more, "You're too small. It's just two of you."
Yeah.
And we were like, "Okay." And we got another call back, and they said, "Well, let's consider you again. And have you grown any?" "No, it's just me and him." They said, "No, that's okay."
Wow.
And then the third time they said, "Can you partner with somebody?" And so there was a company out of Chicago, and the owner's name was Dr. Samuel Batanzas. And Dr. Batanzas says, "Okay, we'll partner up." And basically they were a pass-through for us. So Cindy Kaiser Murphy said, "Okay, we'll give you an opportunity," because they liked our concept, and we had to basically do a demonstration of the training, and they really liked it. So, matter of fact, I still remember to this day when she said that she had a green dress on and she was pregnant.
Wow.
Still remember that. I don't know how.
Wow.
So we came in and did the first class called The Spirit of 42, which was patterned after Jackie Robinson.
Yep.
And the very first class was at New York, New York. And they said, and it was 3 days. And I tell people some of the parts of the class we literally wrote out on a napkin at dinner one night.
Wow.
The stereotypes exercise we wrote out, and the ball toss,
the boat.
So we just adjusted, and it just caught on like wildfire, and we had this concept that we wanted to touch the skill set, tool set, heart set, mindset. Those are 4 components that we wanted to touch. And we wanted people to go back to work with a toolbox of information. But we said the 2 toughest things to change an individual is the head and the heart. And so much of the class was about experiential learning, because we said if we sit them down, intellectually they may get it, but they don't feel it, or from an emotional standpoint. And if you can't lead transformation until you've been transformed. And so we were transforming hearts and minds. That was the whole goal behind it. And we wanted to make it a roller coaster. You sit down for this, you get up for that. You write about this. And I don't even know if you remember, there was always journaling in there, because we wanted them to have something to take out of there. So, and the questions we would always ask after every session is, what did you learn and how will you apply? Because we wanted them to take it back with work that they could execute. And what we found real quick, because the initial classes we were doing train the trainers, but people kept coming back to us saying, it's too much work. I don't have the emotional to keep up with this, or this is too hard. And so we ended up getting hired to us being the main trainers, and we took on the contract for the organization.
Yeah, and what you explained, I live, because I was on the second class called The Power of One, and everything you talk about materialized in us. I remember not knowing what we were getting into, but I became one of those folks that came back to the property and was on fire. And eventually people wanted to sign up for this thing. It became, at the beginning, they said, as you must go, but then how can I sign up to be a diversity champion? And, the classes could only be so big, and it took work and time and effort and resources. So it took years, but the work really gave fruit. And I hope you see that. We just hired a year ago somebody, Lori Calderon, another diversity champion, who at that time was at the Resorts World, but now is with Empire Cat. We were looking for somebody, an assistant for Irene, and this application came in. And one of the first things I saw, diversity champion, class of this and that, employee of the year, MGM. And I said, this is our person. But that's how you, I think, transform lives. As you say, you created people who just rose to different levels. And so, how would you? I haven't seen Michael since then, but what did that mean for you and Michael? That period of your life where you, I'm sure it wasn't MGM. You move on to other things, but the fact that you transformed a company and the culture, what did that mean to you?
First of all, I believe that was part of my purpose. And I said, nothing just happens. And for such a time as this, we were put in a position where there was a need met with a capability, met with a will. And to be able to touch so many people. And I always tell people this, you didn't just touch the person, you also touch their workspace. You also touch their coworkers. You also touch their family. You also touch their friends. And one of the things we talked about a lot is, what is the story that the champion will tell once they leave this training? And that was the magic of it. I got calls from significant others, from spouses, from family members, from bosses. What did you do? And there's nothing more fulfilling than to see a person who has a passion for life and is on fire for what they do. And I used to tell people, we don't put fires out, we start them. And we unleash the full potential in the individual. And we just create the space for it to come out of them. Because one of the saddest things in the world is for someone to live an unfulfilled, an unhappy life. And so that's why when we were putting the class together, we didn't want to just talk about the workspace. We also wanted to talk about the personal space, and also the home space, and also the friend space, because it all, you can, if you have to be something different at work than you are at home, then you're probably not happy. So when you saw that degree of transformation in the individual, it's very fulfilling. It's very satisfying. To this day, to this day, I could be somewhere and people were like, "You're that guy."
Yeah.
And it's an instant connection, just like when I saw you today. And that exercise and this, and I still have my board.
Yeah.
I still have my bandana, and I still have my, some of those fundamental things that we required in the class. People still hold on to because it anchors. And we told them that, I don't know if you remember this in the class, that if you show or look at certain things, it will take you right back to those moments.
Yep.
And so that was the magic of it. And I also be remiss if I didn't say, having the ability to work with somebody, Michael, who was just the opposite of me and brought different capabilities and different skill sets. Yeah. And I mean, he drove me hard and I drove him hard, but that was the magic in it. And that let me know the importance of diversity of thought, including and being around people who are different than yourself, the power of synergy, of innovation, of reimagining what's possible. And that's what that class allowed. And to this day, sometimes people will ask this question: what is your legacy? That's a question we ask all the time. And I think sometimes people take that lightly, but I take it serious that the time that people spend with me in whatever capacity I'm doing, that I'm hope that they are better for it based off of idea, conversation, interaction, and our appreciation.
We're going to get to that new chapter of the military next, but let me close this one about the MGM days. You've used the word magic a couple of times, and you've taken me back memory lane. I'm going to take you back. And again, you did so many of these classes, but I don't know if you remember this one. A few classes after mine, leadership started to get involved because it was the presidents were picking us, directors and VPs to go. But eventually, I think you guys said, well, what about you guys? Bill Macbeth, Scott Sabella. And so the class that Scott Sabella went to with Mike Longi, Irene was in. And you guys allowed me to come back as a champion and do a little magic trick where I took 4 fabrics of different colors and put them in here and talked about how we're different and we all bring different abilities. And, some of us are darker and lighter. And then through the magic of this transformation, one thing came with the 4, the colors all integrated. And everybody started calling me the magic man. That was the only trick I knew. But you guys, again, were that was inclusion. A director got to come into where the presidents were and share how it changed them and what it meant. So again, I think I will always remember those days. I'm grateful, and I'm grateful that you continue to hear that from all of us, the tens of thousands that went through it. So thank you again for those experiences.
And I do remember that, actually.
No.
Yep. Oh, yes, I remember, because we would bring people back to be on team that had graduated. And actually, you probably don't remember this. I was like, you have to show me that trick. And then you said, no, because then you won't invite me back to class anymore. so I do remember
I can show you now. I can show you now. Well, that again, I'm so grateful for those memories. Like you said, we treasure those things and it takes you back. Mm-hmm. I still, again, last time I attempted to clean my garage and got rid of stuff, I think I only threw out some bolts because most of the stuff I can't throw away. But the board, as you remember, has a word or sometimes 2 that meant something special. And when I looked at it, I said, it reminded me, yes, you overcame that. Mm-hmm. And so, again, memories and all that. So, but
your barrier.
Yes.
Your barrier.
Yes. And so, again, this passion that you have that I've always remembered, you now use it in our military, leading our military women. So, actually, before I close the chapter, I want to ask you one question. When you got to the company, I was about to leave, and you came in as the Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion after, this role with Arding Quest. And then you moved up the roles at the MGM, and you ended up being the Senior VP of Organizational Culture. I'm sure that was the first time that title existed. But I wanted to tell me, for us to close that chapter, in that law enforcement life, in that MGM life, Guardian Quest life, and even now in the military, you have exemplified leadership abilities. Which ones are common across those roles? Because I'm sure there's some core common leadership abilities that you've identified that are common across all of those roles.
So first of all, I agree, which is why I love to spend so much time talking about leadership, because it's transferable in so many areas. And the first person you must lead is yourself. And sometimes people look at it how I apply it to other things, but it starts off with yourself. And I also say the essential triangle of success that I have seen is discipline, focus, and consistency. And when I find, because I'm a huge researcher, so when I want to learn what makes the best leaders, I'm always looking for that. So then I look for a definition. Leadership, the capacity to influence others through inspiration, motivated by passion, generated by vision, produced by conviction, and ignited by purpose. So those are the, what I start with the intangibles. How are you influencing? How are you inspiring? What are you convicted about? And and then what's the purpose? And then when I look at those attributes that matter, that are really critical, important, what happens when you don't have a vision? The people perish. So if you keep workforce connections just the same, we don't need to grow, we don't need to change, we don't need to adapt to a different demographic. If you just stay there, you become a stink. And I always used to say this: mediocre people are always at their best. People have to think about that sometimes. So it starts off with having a vision, understanding strategy. A guy named Peter Singay says you have to get up in the balcony and look at the situation and understand what needs to happen. A leader has to be able to identify and solve challenges or problems. They have to also be able to own what they see, and they have to have a sense of urgency about it. They got to have a heart for people. They got to have a heart for people, because unless it's AR or something, you're probably working with people. You got to be good at decision making. You have to understand problem solving. You have to know what drives a team. And I also could tie in the critical books that I have read that I look as foundational. You better know your true north. You better have a mindset of continuous improvement, no matter what's been handed to you. A word that I've been using a lot also is you better be a good steward. It could be of the finances, the resources, the people, the strategy. So that's so important. You better understand intentionality. You better get discipline. Because you have to have the ability to get distractions out of the way. And you have to also, and I'm going over the transferables. Colin Powell wrote a book called "It Worked for Me." So I'm just telling you, this is what worked for me.
Yeah.
And you better be very good at setting goals and having objectives and having line of sight and staying there. And then probably the last one is you have to be a voracious reader. Leaders are readers. And the secrets, used to be limited to just a select few, but the internet changed that. And so I always remind people in the morning, the number one person you have to spend time with is yourself, because your employer is going to get for 8-10 hours out of you. But if you're not pouring into you first, then it's a miss. And probably I'll say the last one, because I could talk about this all day, is you better be very good at writing and journaling. Because I could even say from today, what did I learn from Jaime? And then how will I apply? Because learning without application means nothing. So there's so many examples of learning, but education is not enough. It's also the application of the education. And I said that was going to be the last one, but I end with this. And you got to have strong emotional intelligence. If you don't have heightened self-awareness about who you are, if you don't have heightened self-regulation of how to manage yourself, if you don't have heightened motivation, it is nobody's job to start your engine in the morning. If you don't have heightened empathy about people and what's around you, and if you don't have heightened social skills, it's going to be a miss, because you got to be able to walk among people who are different and see life different than yourself and make connections and be able to get along. And I said that was the last one, but this is really the last one. And you better have a favorite 5 of mentors who will tell you, who are not afraid to be truth tellers about what you can do to get to the next level, improve, get things out of the way, think about this, challenge your status quo. I'll stop there.
Ondra, that's just, I feel like you were dropping golden nuggets, but now I feel like there's bars, the gold bars you're leaving us with here. Our podcasts are usually given out for free, but I think we can charge for this one. Okay. Would we have to give the military some money or the royalties?
I've been given a lot. So, and I'll tell you this. I always say it's the last thing, but we have what's called a Minuteman, and that's our symbol in the military. And, that's the Minuteman right here. And out in the Minuteman, it says this. Now they attribute the quote to me, but it's not my quote. It's biblical. It says, "To whom much is given, much is required." So I've been given much. So when you say, should we charge? You know what? I've been blessed beyond measures. I've been given so much. And so givers gain and takers lose. And part of this point of my life is give as much as I can, because somebody saw something in me and gave to me. So I love giving.
I'm grateful, Ondra, and that you came today, and I get to hang out with you. One of the reasons we talked about this, because we were in Carson City with the Vegas Chamber a while back, and you shared with the trustees, our fellow trustees, how the military was different today. The labor market is tight for every employer, but even the military has changed the way culture is in the military, the way you recruit and retain the men and women. I would love for our listeners to hear a little bit about that. Let's start with that, and then we'll dive into the responsibilities of the head of the Nevada, military. So let's start with culture and how it's changed in that regard.
It used to be the culture, and I don't say that this is a bad thing. We just transform over time. It's just do as I say. This is the expectation. Follow orders and move on. And one of the things that I have learned is, first of all, you have different generations in our workforce today, and you have very low unemployment rates, and people have choices, and people have experienced different things than maybe I have. And what we tend to do sometimes as leaders is we expect people to see the world the way we see it versus the way it really is, or another person's view. And I believe sometimes that's what we struggle with as a society, is we're so focused on my way is the only way. So it was important to me to have a culture where people felt that they could come in and have opportunities, not just to do the responsibilities, but know that the culture cared for them. My definition of culture has been, what is the worst behavior you will tolerate, and what is the best behaviors that you hold people to? And from a cultural standpoint, it starts off with the people who are in the senior leaders roles. So if I don't bring people into existence, if I don't speak to them, if I don't demonstrate that I care, if I'm not fighting for their benefits, if I'm not doing something to show the organization is growing, is vibrant, I always like to use this word, we're healthy as an organization. And so, and the people coming in, and the military's changed dramatically over the last few years. For the first time now, women can wear ponytails. Men were telling them how to wear their hair. Imagine that. Or, you won't find many young people that may not have tattoos now. And now we've relaxed that. Or if you made some bad decisions in the younger part of your life, there's I can work around that now. I don't get caught up on who you are, where you're from, who you love. If you want to take an oath and say, I am sworn to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and potentially put your life on the line, I am not going to tell you that you have to be just like me. You have to fit, the same standards in terms of our physical fitness or what we wear or how we train. But we're a lot more open to the individual fitting into the team versus the team forcing the fit into the individual. I work really hard at, and I say our senior team work really hard at what are the benefits that you may not be able to get anywhere else, but you can get in the military. We're probably the best place in the world for educational benefits. We have a law in the state of Nevada that on Nevada Day and the weekend afterwards, everything that you purchase in this state is tax-free.
Cars?
Yes,
wow.
Tax-free. That's unique to the military. We have a fund where we can support, if you're on hard times, that we can write you a check to take care of you or your family or rent and things like that. I have mental health and wellness specialists that are available on a regular basis to work with you, because I just know from a resiliency standpoint, I tell this to people all the time. If you have not had some hard times in this life, just keep on having birthdays. It's coming. And life will throw curveballs at you that you just aren't ready for. So we put a lot into mental health and wellness of our people. From a development standpoint, training and development, we have what we call a J9, and they have places that will help you find jobs. We have family programs. We have a university. We also have a program called Purple Resolve, where you get to come for 2 days. You can bring your significant other, and all you're doing is working on you. And you know how we start that class? We put a mirror in front of them. I wonder where I got that idea from.
Yeah.
So we pour a lot, and I pride myself on leadership engagement, knowing what's going on with the workforce. And something that's really important for our culture is I don't want the outside, when I say the outside, the negative, to come into the inside of the organization, because you will find it's easier to go negative or take shots or to complain versus how can I help solve? How can I make a contribution? I remind our people, this is a noble profession. Less than 1% wear the cloth of United States military. And when people see you, they see something great about this nation. So we work very hard to build a culture where people have pride, want to be here, know that they will be taken care of. I have 5 strategic priorities, but one of them is care for members, their families, and their employers. And so we take that very, very, very serious. So, because if I take care of the person, they'll take care of the nation. If I take care of the family, that person is in a better place to take care of the world. If I take care of the person, I get the more out of them than the minimum they can provide. So that's why culture, what is the worst behavior that we will tolerate, but what is the best behavior that we work towards?
I love that, Andre. If people wanted to, our listeners, our viewers, wanted to learn more, I know you gave us some information in Carson City. What would be the website they could go to learn more about the National Guard?
If you just Google the Nevada National Guard,
okay,
our Nevada Military Department, you will find us.
Very good.
We are all over the place. I have a website. The Nevada National Guard has a website. Our public affairs officer has a website. My senior enlisted leader has a website. We have so many websites. It's easy to find us.
Okay.
And let me just also say this. 3/4 of my workforce, remember I have almost 5,000 people, 3/4 what we call M-Day are drill status guardsmen, which means they're part-time. So there's school teachers, police officers, running nonprofits, ministers, working in gaming. Most of my workforce have their jobs, and then they do the National Guard. That was the first, 30 years of my career. That's what I was doing. And I had a job, but I also was doing the National Guard. So this last 5 years is the first time I've really been full-time, all-out National Guard. So I'm what's called a citizen soldier.
Wow.
Or traditional guardsman.
So, Andre, there's the full-time, there's the part-time, but you also mentioned contractors. How do contractors?
So we have soldiers, airmen, and civilians. So we have a lot of what we call Title V jobs. We have a lot of state jobs. We have a whole state admin section. So the contractors could be a part of our state admin or federal contractors. So, I have people who are on different statuses all the time. You could be what's called a state active duty, which you're working on state orders, you're working the state. Title 32 under federal orders. Title 10, you work in national active duty. Title 5, you're in plain clothes, civilian employees. So most times when I'm dealing with somebody, I have to say, what status are they in? Because we have just a variety. And that's why the National Guard works, because we're really neighbors helping neighbors who live next door to neighbors. My force is all over the state, and you can see us in so many different varieties of entities. And we have, most people think about just from the standpoint of pilots or tanks or helicopters, but there's so many jobs that our civilian workforce can do for us and do for us with excellence, and we could not do without them. So when you speak about contractors, there's a lot of different things that they can do, from our facilities to video to the technology to cooking. I mean, there's so many things that they do great at.
Right. Andre, before we close the military section and we move on to the next one, I envision this very important job that you have. There's good days, bad days. I imagine in the bad days, there's this call you get that means there's a national disaster or some kind of thing that you need to deploy. Is that accurate? And if so, and then also, what are the good days? What does that call look like in the good days?
Well, first of all, I'll tell you, there's no 2 days that are ever alike. If you ask me over the 5 years, how are they similar? Ain't no such thing in this profession. The National Guard has 3 roles. Number 1 is the war fight. This is where we deploy our people to some of the most dangerous parts of the world, and they could be asked to do anything. We are getting ready to send about 249 of our people out next in September across the world, and based off of the conditions of what's going on in society today or in the world today, they may go one place, but be sent to many different places. That's the number 1 mission that we have. And I tell people during COVID, we had 10 different deployments. Most people just saw us doing the COVID mission. We had 10 different deployments. That's why your National Guard exists, is to protect this great nation. The second mission we have is the homeland. That could be the COVID mission. That could be wildfires. That could be search and rescue. That could be civil unrest. And our Governor Joe Lombardo, has the opportunity to call the Guard into service at any time to work our homeland mission. We work the F1 race here. We work the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. We work New Year's Eve every year. So that's a second mission that we have. Our third mission is what we call state partnerships. Your Nevada National Guard has 3 state partnerships with Tonga, Fiji, and Samoa in the South Pacific. In fact, I was in Fiji 3-4 weeks ago. I'm headed back there again next month. Mm-hmm. And we have these allies and partners that we work with. We were teaching professional development. The Fiji National University has a partnership with College of Southern Nevada. And very strong partnership, by the way. And so we work very closely with them. I was just in Tonga for the King's birthday. I was in Fiji. I was in New Zealand. And so these allies and partners, we have there's over 100 partnerships around the world that different entities of National Guard have relationships with. But ours are in the South Pacific, which is a very critical part of the world. So those are the 3 roles that your National Guard has that they must maintain. And that's why we exist on a day-to-day basis.
Well, Ondra, thank you for sharing that with our viewers, listeners. I want to move to the next chapter by saying thank you for your service and all those men and women leading them to protect us. We've talked a lot about your professional life, but I'd be remiss if I don't ask you about your time when you're not working, volunteering, helping us, protecting us. What do you enjoy doing in your family time and your off time? What activities, hobbies?
The little time that I have. So, first of all, family is important to us, and so we have 3 kids, 3 adults.
Yeah.
They don't hear that part. And my son's a firefighter in Fairfax County and lives in Fredericksburg. We have 3 grandkids. And then my middle daughter is a nurse, a pediatrics ICU nurse at a hospital in Reno up in Northern Nevada. And then my youngest daughter is also in the military, and she's a school teacher at a high school, teaches special education. So as much time as we can spend there, and my wife demands that, it's important. I love to ride. So during COVID, I bought a Peloton. I think I've broken the record on the Peloton.
Wow.
And getting my bike out and riding is that's just exhilarating. I love music. Love in Vegas got some of the best music ever. So if I could go to a concert literally every day, I would go.
Okay.
I'm a huge Tower Power fan. I'm in the Tower Power fan club, just so you know.
Wow.
Some of the young people won't know about that, but they got the best horns ever. So I can tell you they're going to be in Las Vegas on October 5th. I already know that.
Wow.
So
that's cool.
But just love music. And then I love to read. And then I serve in several roles at our church. Okay. And volunteers is big for me. And I serve on a couple of nonprofit boards that, of course, out there helping kids.
Yeah.
And I tell people I give my favorite volunteer organization of all time, which I still help, is the Boys and Girls Clubs. If any Boys and Girls Club calls and asks me to help, I'm going to do it. I'm a product of a boys club. It wasn't Boys and Girls back then. So I know what they do. I know they give a safe haven for our young people.
Oh.
And so I didn't mean to mess up
our
there.
product placement.
Yes, exactly. So volunteerism I love to do, and love to read. I'm a voracious reader. My wife always accuses me if you buy one more book, and I just ordered 2 last week. One's called Compassionate Leadership, actually.
Wow.
So, but that's, and other than that, that's all the time I got.
That's really good, Andre. I made a mental note to ask you a follow-up question, but I think you clarified it. When you say reader, a lot of people now read with audiobooks or Kindle, not necessarily the pages. Do you still need to read from a printed page?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I have to touch. I have to highlight. I gotta fold back to corners. I gotta scribble notes.
Okay.
I gotta have that feel.
Okay.
And you got to learn how you learn. I'm a kinesthetic learner, and so I gotta have that book that I can just go back and. All right. Oh, I folded the pages. I've tore this. I made notes in there. I have to have that book in my hand.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Thank you for sharing that with us. Now, I think you think about this too. I often think, I wish I could talk to my 20-year-old self and save him some pain. As you said, that's coming. And because we gain wisdom later in life. But I know that's not possible, but if you could, if we have a 20-year-old young man or woman who's listening now and is fascinated by the fact that you grew up like them, you had your challenges and you had to earn where you are today. And today you lead our military here in Nevada. You've had a successful, private sector life. What advice would you give those young people today to be able to have a chance to get where you are now?
Oh, I'll tell you, that's a great question, because I've often asked myself, if I'd got this back then, where would I be right now? There's certain areas that everything to me starts off with your thinking. And if you're not working on your thought process, then it's a miss. And all day long, we get messages that come in, whether it be social media, whether it be television, whether it be people, and you have to control your thinking. And you heard me say earlier, energy follows thoughts. A woman named Joyce Meyer writes a book called Battlefield of the Mind, because I think that's where everything starts. I can say to myself, I'm tired, or I want to eat something bad, or I don't like this person. And when people ask me, what's the first way you get people to change? I say, control your thinking. Here's what you can't control, your first thought. But guess what you can't control? Your second thought. So I say, start off with and work on your self-awareness, knowing to thine own self be true, and know yourself. Then it starts off with, every year at the first of the year, I always lay out my goals. Every year. What do I want to accomplish this year? And you must have what I call non-negotiables for yourself. And the next thing I would say is, and those non-negotiables are going to tie into behaviors. Next thing is, write out a personal mission statement for how you want to live your life and hold yourself to it. Think about this. If 2 people in a relationship wrote out a mission statement of how this relationship is going to be, and we're going to hold ourselves to it, versus I'm in love with you because of how you look, I just think life would be so much different, because the mission statement says who you are, what you do, and the quality by which you do it. Next thing I will tell somebody is, when it comes to what would I tell my younger version of myself, you must understand money. You must understand money. And
Yes.
how much do we blow?
Yes.
And be disciplined about it. When I say discipline, consistency, and focus, those are, when I studied leaders, that's where it was at right there. Discipline, consistency, and focus. And then, where do I want to be physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? And you got to tie behaviors into that, because that ties, and when I say mentally, it could be intellectually, going to school, how I want to grow. When I say physically, what's important to me, how I look, are people around me. and emotionally, that's my insides,
Mhm.
because life is an inside job. And as David Gergen says, you must get self-mastery and self-awareness down before you do anything else. So when I go back to that, and then Stephen Covey wrote a book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
Habit 5, begin with the end in mind. So if I begin 2024, how I want 2024 to end, and hold myself to that, is going to be better. And the last thing is one of the things I said earlier. You got to have a tribe. We are extension of those who we have around us. We are extension. If you want to know why you are the way you are, you're an extension of what's around you. And your tribe has to be almost your fan club, And there's nothing wrong with having fun, enjoying life. But when I get serious about life, and I start to, because the day I got promoted to general officer, I flew out my high school teacher to promote me. And I entitled my talk, The Power of One. And I talked about the one people in my life that made an impact. And like he was my high school teacher, made an impact. Those one people will make an impact. And you don't want people who are going to be nice to you. You don't want people who are going to just tell you everything's going to be okay. You want people who will hold you accountable.
Mm.
It won't be fun,
Mm-hmm.
but if you had strong mentors and coaches and advocates at a young age, it helps you navigate through life, and it accelerates you to success, which is really the last thing I say.
I love it, Ondra. I love it. Before we say our goodbyes, I wanted to ask you if there are any public announcement information you wanted to share about either the National Guard or any organization that you have.
Well, I always love talking about the National Guard, and I always ask the public or anybody out there, just know those who wear the uniform have the ultimate selfless service, or service before self, love what they do, have families, and they have a story. And I just ask you just to support what we do in the war fight, the homeland, and our state partnerships. We have a suicide prevention conference coming up in, I want to say September 18th, right here in Las Vegas. That's just one of those silent things that sometimes we don't talk enough about. And we love public support. Also, I'll tell you this too. If there was an organization, because I spent a lot of time talking about resiliency. And if you brought together 25 community leaders and said, we want to learn more about resiliency, I would love to do a class, our Purple Resolve class, which is a signature best practice. And we'd come here and put a class on for you. All you got to do is give us a building and people, and we do the rest.
I'm going to take you up on that.
Yeah, it will be one of the best experiences of your life.
Wow.
In terms of learning about you. And you will have a huge toolbox of information. It will force you to look inward. It would make you more resilient for the challenges we face in life. And it's totally 100% about your life. And the reason why we created it is to make sure that we were giving something back to the force that gave them a better opportunity to navigate and work towards how they see a successful life should be.
Wow.
And so we give that to the community. So if you say, I got 25 people, give me 2 instructors and here's a room, we'll take it from there.
And the group, does it have to be from leaders from different organizations? Can it be one organization?
It can be one organization.
Wow.
Yeah, we love doing that.
Okay.
That's a chance to give back. The state of Nevada helps fund this class for us. The governor supports it. And so anytime we can give back to our community and have outstanding instructors, we give back. All we do is just create the environment and we do the rest. Materials, resources, we got it.
Okay, I love that idea. My mind's already, I'm going to take
Purple
you up.
Resolve is what it's called.
Okay, one more time?
Purple Resolve.
All right, I'm going to get back to you on that.
I guarantee
Okay.
all we have to say is when you come in there, just come in there open, and there is no test, and nobody talks about the class. I mean, your experience is your experience, but most times when we go to training, it's not just about us. It's about your organization or meeting goals, objectives. This is all about you.
How long is the training?
2 days.
2 days. Full days.
Full days.
Wow, you're not going to make me cry like back in the Guardian Quest days.
No. It's
Okay.
no, it's really more
Okay.
about you working. It'll make you think an awful lot, though.
Okay.
It'll make you reflect an awful lot. I read a book called Healthy Emotional Leaders. And one of the things that I'm learning more and more about life is we tend not to pay attention to our past or where we come from or how we ended up the way we are. And it makes you just reflect. And by the way, none of that is bad, but it just makes you reflect on, oh, this is why I'm here. So what do I need to do? And then, as I said, when life throws you curveballs, because they are coming, it gives you more equipment and resources to better deal with some of the challenges we face. Because resiliency is one of those attributes every person needs.
Ondra, my friend, thank you so much for being here today. I love you. I admire you. I salute you, my friend.
I'm going to work on that salute.
Yeah,
That's
you got to
okay.
teach me.
Okay.
You got to teach me. Thank you for being
thank you
here.
for what you do, because you're making a difference. You matter. You're uplifting. You're a light. You're foundational to so many of the successes we see in our community. Many times we don't know how many lives we save because of the work we do. And we don't know the second, third order effects of how you will shift a whole family because now you're giving them hope.
Thank you, my friend. And you're going to hear from me on the resiliency. So
okay, I look forward to it.
Thank you for being here. Well, that's it for another episode of the WC Podcast. We hope to see you at another one soon. Until then, stay safe. Ondra, thank you for staying over for our bonus segment called Against the Wall. Are you ready?
I'm against the wall. Yes, I'm ready.
The first section is called Your Favorites. Let's start with an easy one. Your favorite food.
My favorite food, I'm just a steak and potatoes person.
Love it.
Yeah, that's it.
When you have your steak and potatoes, what's your favorite wine with that?
I don't drink wine.
Oh, no wine. Okay.
I don't drink no wine.
What about in your life? You've owned many cars and now you own tanks and other things, but what was your favorite car?
71 Dodge Challenger, still to this day.
Wow. Favorite musical group or artist?
Not even close. Tower Power, they should be in the Music Hall of Fame for every genre of music.
Great horns.
Great horns. Best horns.
Your favorite movie?
Favorite movie is The Color Purple.
Oh, I love that one. Favorite book?
Favorite book is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
I'm surprised you had one because you read so many.
Yeah, but that's a classic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your favorite sports team?
Well, it has become, no, still Golden State Warriors. Still Golden State Warriors.
All right. Now let me give you...
Close second, Raiders.
All right. So Vegas team would be Raiders. Very good. The second section is called Tough Choices. It gets a little harder. I'm going to give you two choices. Try to pick one.
Okay.
Vacation or staycation?
Vacation.
Going to your vacation, would you rather drive there or fly there?
Well, I am not driving to a vacation.
And once you get there, hotel or Airbnb?
Hotel.
When
you people clean up for me.
That's right. When you retire one day, will it be on a ranch or in the city?
It's going to be in the city. I got to have stuff around me. I got to get spoiled.
All right. And if you have a free day, would you rather spend it by the ocean or hiking in the mountains?
Hiking in the mountains. Go up there and talk to stuff.
If you were a superhero, and you are, obviously, but one like in the comic books, would you rather have the ability to fly or breathe underwater?
I got to fly so I can see everything.
Love it. The ability to speak with animals or speak any foreign language?
Foreign language. I know I kind of like my dog, but
here's a hard one. Actions or words?
Actions.
Justice or grace?
Grace.
Well, you passed the second segment with flying colors. So we're moving to the third and last section. Are you ready?
Bring it on.
It's called Finish the Sentence. If Ondra could visit any place in the world, it would be...
If I could visit any place in the world, it would be Africa.
All right. The best part about living in Nevada is...
The best part about living in Nevada is the people.
Ondra's favorite thing about his job with the National Guard is...
The people.
If Ondra can travel back in time, he would travel to...
I would travel to the 1800s when we were really figuring out who we were as a nation.
Wow. That scene in Remember the Titans? Where they go to the cemetery?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. I would love to be there when we were being formulated and ideas and thoughts, and we were trying to think about who we were as a nation.
Love that. Love that. 3 words that describe Ondra are?
Resilient, relentless, and passionate.
Love it. And doing the WC podcast here today with us was?
One of the greatest opportunities and experiences in my life.
Awesome. Thank you for being here today with us, Ondra.